Ever since I started making Football Manager videos on YouTube, there has been one request that I get more often than any other. Because, you know, I'm the non-league guy. I've been doing non-league to legend for 4 years now. But people are always asking me, Kev, go lower, go lower. Get one of these databases that unlocks down to tier 20 or something crazy like that. Go lower, go lower, go lower. And it's been bouncing around in my head for years. I wanted to go lower, but the problem with starting in tier 20 is that Football Manager games only last a year, and I'm not very good at the game. If I start 15 divisions below the Football League, spoilers, I'm not making it to the Football League before the next version of the game came out. So we needed to think about it another way. I googled, what's the lowest point in England? And it's a place called Holme Fen, which when we have a look at a map, is actually really close to my house. It's less than 10 miles away from Peterborough, in a little village called Holme. I needed to find out more. Now, I've lived in this area for the full 36 years of my life, and I'd never been to this place called Holme. I was vaguely aware that it existed, so we had to hit up Wikipedia and learn more about it. So it's a little village in Cambridgeshire, contains the lowest point in Great Britain, 2.75 metres or 9 feet below sea level. Specifically, that's the lowest point in Britain. Apparently, these poles were planted at some point, and when they were planted, I don't understand. The poles confuse me. They're there. I tried to go and look at them, but the road was blocked because if you've watched any of the preview videos for this series, you'll know that I wasn't exactly welcome in the village when I went there, and I think they set up a roadblock for me. It's got a population of just 636 people, and that's the highest population it's had in a century. There's 636 people in this tiny village, and it's not really known for very much. It doesn't have a football team of its own. The nearest football team would be Yaxley, who are just down the road, literally like a mile away, if we go back to the map, in fact. We've got Holme is there, Yaxley is there, so actually it's like 3 or 4 miles away. There's a team there, though, and that'll be your nearest football team. There's also teams out at Whittlesea. There's a few around this kind of area. But there's no team in Holme, presumably because there's not enough people. All it's really known for is being the lowest point in the UK, and at some point in the past it had a floating church and a pub. I mean, literally, the pub in this place has made it onto their Wikipedia page. Look at the Wikipedia page for wherever you live. I suggest the pub in the village or the town or the city. They're not going to list the pubs. They can list the pubs because it's the only culture and community that's here, apart from the floating church that hasn't been there for over 100 years. So we went to Holme to have a look around. There's preview videos on the channel where you can see what we did while we were there. But this is basically your view of Holme. This is the village. I had a little bit of an explore. I had a look at this aerial view before I went there to try and work out where we could put a football pitch. That stuck out, but that's the primary school. We can't really take over a primary school. The only other patch of grass that's big enough is this one. And it already looks football pitch shape. In fact, if we're going to be specific about it, it looks exactly like this. This is Homewood. I mean, there's not much space here. We're going to have to deal with some of these houses. But that is the home of home. This is where our story begins. It's coming home. Hello and welcome to part 1 of It's Coming Home. I'm Kev and I'm very excited. As you can see, we have just been appointed as manager of Holme Football Club, our newly created club that is going to be residing in the Northern Premier League Division 1 East. This is a created database. Before we go any further, I just want to thank everyone who's been involved in helping me get this off the ground over the last couple of weeks. It has been a long time coming and I couldn't have done it without the help of the FM editor who created the database for me, What the Fork Gaming who created the logo for us, Request a Kit and Jackson Plays FM who designed the kits that we're going to be having a look at in a little while, and everybody who's supported the series, already followed Holme FC on Twitter, already bought shirts from the store that there's a link to down in the description, and a special thank you to our board of directors who've signed up through Patreon to basically have a massive role in planning out how this save is going to work. They've helped me decide what our starting budget would be, what our stadium capacity is going to be, what our club reputation is going to be. So massive shout out to Sir Enoch Nuhu, plus Stuart Robertson, Alfie Howden, Liam Hammond, Matt Quine, Josh Mann and Will Timmins. Thank you very much. You've all been a massive help. But it's finally here. The save has begun. The football club exists. We are Home Football Club. Let's just have a little look at the team itself. As I mentioned before, we're going to be playing in the EvoStick Northern Premier League. We were founded just this year as a semi-professional club with a local reputation, okay finances, and for some reason we've not qualified for Europe yet. That's something that we need to work on. These are our beautiful kits. As you can see, they are all stunning, all custom, all sponsored by the National Autistic Society as well. If you've been watching the channel over the last few days, you'll have known just how much we do with the National Autistic Society. We've raised £10,000 for them over the last year or so just from doing 24-hour live streams. But now we're going to raise a bit more money for them because, as I mentioned, these shirts are already available to sell. There's already been nearly 100 of them sold. It's been insane, the response to these shirts. But for every shirt that's sold, 10% of the profit from those shirts is going to the National Autistic Society. So it's another way you can support the charity whilst getting a really cool piece of merch to support your new favourite non-league football team, Home Football Club. Look at them, they're so cool. Look at how cool they are. It's just brilliant. So, bit more detail about Home before we meet the players. There's not many of them. That's going to be something we have to address before the next episode. So, our nickname, as decided by the people who follow Holme FC on Twitter, there was a vote. The vote decided that we're going to be called the Villagers. My vote was for the Strangers because I was very much treated as a stranger when I went to visit. Our media prediction is 5th. That was a discussion that I had with the board of directors where I was all ready to set us up as the lowest reputation team in the division, but they made the point that we've already got nearly 2,000 Twitter followers. You know, this is a club that's probably been heard of more than most of the teams who are in the Northern Premier League Division 1 East. I mean, I've not heard of many of these teams. So we agreed that we'd kind of put ourselves somewhere in the middle. We don't want to be rock bottom on reputation, but also we don't want to be the top reputation club in the league because we don't want to have that pressure to get promoted in the first season because we probably won't. As it is, we're going to finish 5th, which is going to be something of a challenge, but it's a challenge that I'm willing to. I mean, we'll give it a go. Look, we've got someone who's in the Dream 11. We'll meet Levi Potton in a minute. I've not looked at this at all, and every time I load it up, it generates different players. I've done a lot of testing, but I have no idea who Levi Potton is because he'll be a new gen who's been generated just now as I've started this final version of the save. So our rivalries, we've set ourselves up with rivals as Yaxley and Peterborough. As we saw from the map before, Yaxley is just down the road. Peterborough is our nearest big club, so obviously we're going to have a rivalry with the Posh as we move up through the league. I've also added some of the other local teams on as rivalries as well because we want to have some local derbies early on. A lot of these teams are in the division we're starting in or the equivalent division because we're kind of on the border between the Northern Premier League and the Southern League, whatever that's called. Some of these, there's a chance if we don't get promoted straight away, we could get moved from north to south with the reshuffles. So we want some rivalries down there as well. So our other rivals are Peterborough Sports, Peterborough Northern Star, Wisbech Town, Stamford, Spalding United and Deeping Rangers, who are like a mile from my house. Our chairman, Sir Enoch Nuhu, loves the club. Ticket price £8. Season ticket prices that seems expensive, but we have 39 season ticket holders standing on the grass at Homewood because Homewood is where we're going to be playing. I've had to put the city as Yaxley because Home doesn't exist on the database. Yaxley's the nearest place. Capacity, how could we not have the capacity as the population of the village? So a capacity of 636. There's a little bit of expansion pack capacity, but as you saw from the video, realistically, there's not much real expansion capacity, although there is a lot of space just outside the village as you move towards the A1. So I think probably within the first couple of promotions, we're going to hit our first big major stumbling block, which is going to be we're going to have to relocate. Whether that means building a ground of our own or moving to Yaxley or moving to one of the Peterborough stadiums, or we're not going to be able to move into the conference, I don't think. I don't think we can get into the Conference North with the capacity that we've got. So, and we can't expand to that point. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. That could be a major problem. But it's a problem this team would have in real life. And we have rubbish facilities because, as you saw, there's nothing there. And obviously we play our youth games at our own ground as well, because let's face it, where else are we going to play when there's no history, because we are a brand new team, and this is what the finances look like. We've got £2,500 in the bank, so not very much money at all. Obviously no transfer budget, a wage budget of £384 a week, which it seems we're already spending. I'm not really sure what this is. Currently spending 371, committed spending 85. We're going to have a look at the team in a minute and try and work out what the difference there is. And if the previous run-throughs I've done are anything to go by, yeah. We need to get promoted fast, or else we're going to be in major financial problems. It's often the case in other Create A Club series that I've seen. Finances can be an issue. Finances are going to be an issue. They're absolutely going to be an issue. And there's not really any way around that. We've just got to get promoted fast before we go out of business, or hope Sir Enoch does put some money in. I've not set him up as a sugar daddy, but it does ask how wealthy he is. And obviously if you haven't seen Back in the Borough, you need to go and watch Back in the Borough. It's only 200 episodes long to find the story of Sir Enoch, but he was obviously a Champions League winning Premier League footballer for many years. He's got some money, but I've deliberately not set him up as a sugar daddy because I don't want him pouring that money in constantly. We might just have to go to the rest of the board and ask them for some cash. I think that's completely reasonable. But we've talked long enough. Let's meet the team. I don't know how many players. We've not got many players. The game kind of generates a few players for you when you first turn it on. So we've got, 10 or 12 players in our first team squad. Are they the same players in the under-23s? No, so we've got a bunch more in the under-23s who obviously they're going to immediately become part of that first team squad as well. And then some actually there's quite a lot of players here. My word. Forget the distinction between under-23s. We've got a full squad of players. This isn't what's usually happened when I've set this up. Salary-wise, let's have a little look. I don't know how we're spending £300 a week on salaries, because it ain't going to the players. Unless it's bonuses and stuff, maybe. But let's try and pick out some of our stars. So we've got a couple of players who are 5-star current ability. Levi Potton is one of them. Worryingly, he's already wanted by Aldershot, Chesterfield and Hartlepool. Presumably he's not under any kind of contract. So he's 28 years old. They're just going to take him away. It's nice having him here now, but I don't think we're ever going to see Levi Potton play a game of football, because a man who's not under any kind of contract, and we have no money to give him a contract, wanted by Football League clubs. I mean, yeah. It's nice for him to be here. Don't expect to ever see that man have a game. But someone who's on a youth contract, a 15-year-old defensive midfielder who hasn't been spotted by anybody yet, realistically, this guy is going to end up being our best player if we can keep hold of him. And I think because we're so low down and we haven't got the facility to offer contracts, you're going to see quite a lot of churn of players early on in this save. You can see a lot of our best players are wanted by other clubs. Nuneaton are after that guy. Enoch who needs to step in and put a stop to that. But all of our best players are wanted by other clubs. Wanted by 14 clubs. I think we're going to see a lot of these players disappear, and there's going to be a lot of turnover of player in the early seasons of this save until we can get to the point where we can start offering contracts that actually tie players down to the club. This is going to be interesting. So as our team report at the moment, we're not going to get too stuck into that, because obviously most of these players are going to leave. But Levi Potton is a good player. We've got a couple of decent centre-backs, and then the rest are going to be youth players. So I think my job before the next episode is going to be seeing how many of these actually stay, because we're going to be completely powerless if they try to leave, and then try and assemble a new squad that's going to be good enough to finish 5th in the league. What's the board expectation? Because the last thing we want to do is get fired. So the board expectation is that we fight. I say, so the board are looking for us to fight bravely against relegation. The media think we're going to finish 5th. That's interesting. We should avoid relegation. If we don't manage to avoid relegation, I have got the divisions below loaded as well. So we can, in theory, stomach a relegation and still keep the save going as long as I don't get fired. But that was fight bravely against, wasn't it? So theoretically, could get relegated and not fired. Okay, this is going to be quite the job. Oh God, I've got some work to do, and that's the work that I am going to do before tomorrow's video. This guy, I mean, What am I going to do with an attacking midfielder? What am I going to do with a shadow striker in the deepest, darkest non-league? My word. Let's see how many of these we manage to keep hold of and try and put a team together. We'll have a quick look through, see if there's anything else of relevance to us here. I'll do all the team meetings and stuff offline. You don't need to see me do all that again. We've got injuries. We need to get an injury to Potten and try and keep him. And obviously transfer window updates and stuff on there as well. But that's going to be it for our first episode. I just wanted to give you a little introduction to the club, let you know how we've set things up, and brace you for what's coming. Because what's coming is going to be a huge turnover of players. As we get a little bit more settled down with our squad of players, there is going to be the opportunity for Patreon backers to get their name in the game. Check out patreon.com/LOLLUJO for more details on how to do that. I'm not going to have that set up with this initial squad because, like I say, if any of these are still here at the end of the season, I'd be quite surprised. Although if we can keep hold of Potten, let's hope he's a home lad. Is he local? Perhaps it's always been his dream to play for home. So Levi Potten is from... he's from Yaxley. He's a local lad, but he's fickle. That's outstanding. We've got a fickle player playing for us. Oh, flattered by the interest being... Oh, he's had his head turned, everybody. He's had his... Bye-bye, Levi Potten. We loved you while you were here. First hero of home. And enjoy the Football League, sir. If you've enjoyed that, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. And, of course, to see our first game in the Northern Premier League Division 1 East. That'll be on tomorrow's video. And thank you very much for watching.